What's up, guys, and welcome back to the channel. Today's video, we're going to be rebuilding the top end on this Honda Rancher 420. Let's get right to it. Some of the first steps we're going to have to do are obviously remove the seat and all the plastics, the tank, everything to get to the top end and have access to it. So that's what we're going to do. A lot of this stuff is just popping out most of these little clips. Some of this stuff, like obviously the seat, new seat by the way, just comes right up, no issue at all. And the side pieces of plastic pop right out. They have little push things in and little rubber grommets everywhere. And now your black side pieces has some screws and some more pop out. So we're going to undo a lot of this plastic and move on. And once I get to a little bit more complicated area, like this top front piece, it looks like it's going to be maybe a little bit more complicated. We will see. I don't think we're going to have to remove the front plastic or the rear plastics or even this wheel well, this black wheel well. If we do have to remove it, obviously I will. It might be easier with it removed to have access to some of the stuff, but we will see in a second. Front piece of plastic right here is off where the fuel tank is, obviously really dirty. If you don't have one of these little pry things for those clips, you can use some like wire cutters. They work pretty well. That's what I used before I got one of these, but one of these things works great. I'll have it linked down below. I actually got this off Amazon. The only thing that I had to do other than the clips was obviously unscrew your tank lid and put it back on in order to take that front plastic piece here off. I'm going to start with this airbox assembly and move on from there. I had to take the filter out because it's attached in here. There's a clamp right here, like a pipe clamp I'll have to unscrew. There's one underneath here where this intake connects to the intake box here. Your coil here just kind of slides onto this thing. It tucks in here, slides on, and goes underneath this seat thing. And there's one screw holding it on there. And I kind of just set it off to the side because I'm sure I'm going to have to unclip some of these things. But I just wanted to get to this point. This is free up here because there's a clip here I undone. And all these hoses, I think, just slide out of there. They're just breather hoses. Your actual intake tube here just kind of slides out. It just slides right out of there. You kind of just wiggle it in and pull it out once the clamp is done. And all these breather hoses just come and kind of float here. So that's out. Airbox lid, there is a plug here. It's just a clip that pops right out, and then you have a breather tube on here that you'll have to get off. And then obviously your intake box just comes right out. There are some wires and plugs connecting to like your manifold right here. I'm just slowly unplugging them. They're all gonna go, obviously you can't put them in the wrong spot because they all only go into one plug. They're all different plugs. So I'm just going to keep unplugging stuff as I find it. I believe the next thing to get this manifold thing off of here is to undo the fuel line, which I need to shut the fuel off. And then fuel line from the fuel injector, and then our throttle, which is over here. I may just set this thing off to the side so that it's not in our way. We'll see how much we have to remove with this tank in order to get it out of the way. And these hoses are just kind of in the way too. We're going to start working on this fuel tank. It looks like there's a couple bolts. Not sure if there's any up front, but if there is, I'll let you know. There is a couple things you have to do to get this fuel tank off. There's like a breather hose up top on top of the fuel tank. You have to get the petcock turned, and there's a hose obviously going to it that you have to get off. And I've had the most trouble with that thing. That hose is kind of dry rotted. You see it's dripping fuel down there. So I'm going to get this thing, get it turned up and kind of out of the way so it's not dripping fuel everywhere. Lots of room once this fuel tank is off of here. So now we need to remove this plastic piece. It looks like it might just be clipped on. I don't see anything really holding it other than all this wiring. So I'll have to get this wiring off, kind of push to the side so we can actually finally access the head. Whoa, whoa, whoa! You've made it this far and haven't subscribed? You better subscribe. The plastic top piece is off. Kind of a pain. And now that we have access to the top, one of the first things we're going to have to do is take the coolant, drain the coolant out, because if we don't, it's going to get coolant everywhere. So I'm going to probably disconnect the water pump, the exhaust, and there's a couple motor mounts over here, and then we can actually start taking the valve cover off and get a look inside. Okay, I got the header off. There's actually two 14 or 12 millimeter bolts, I think it is, connecting the header to this other exhaust pipe that goes to the muffler, and you just kind of, it sits in there like this, and you just kind of wiggle and pull it out, and it should just come out. I mean, it took some force, so it's not just a perfect thing. So once you wiggle it out, you should have lots of room to work on the top of the motor. I blew some air, compressed air, kind of got everything, no dust or anything going to fall in there. Didn't want to, no loose stuff. And I took the spark plug out. It's out. And now I'm going to start taking these 10 millimeter bolts off that hold the head on. And we're going to see how that goes. Okay, valve cover is off. I left all the screws on it so that I obviously didn't lose anything. You don't have to undo these two. I undid them not knowing what they were, and I think they help hold the rockers on. One thing I forgot, obviously, which is super important, is to make sure it was top dead center, and in order to do that, you have to take off this black wheel well. Just had a hell of a time. I had to drill out one of these bolts in here and use an easy out to finally get it out. It was rusted in there pretty good. So now I should be able to pull it out, and then we'll access that hole right there in order to see where, if it's at top dead center or not. And there's 3 bolts on the back that hold the crank, so we can turn it to get it to top dead center, and I'll show you that in a second. Okay, there are 3 10 millimeter bolts that go right behind this position hole, and we're going to put a socket on there and turn this crank there to get the top dead center mark, which I believe is a T, through that hole. Might be hard to see, but you're going to spin that until you see that T in there. I don't know if you can see it. And there's a line. You can see the line, and then there's a T right above it. And you're going to line up that line with this little crack right there. It's hard to tell, but it's there. There are 2 motor mount bolts right here on the side. 12s, you're going to have to get those off. Set them off to the side, don't lose them. So there is 4 head bolts that are 14s. There are 2 on the outside, 2 on the inside. 2 nuts, 2 nuts there, 2 nuts there, and 1 12 millimeter bolt on the inside over here. And then it does come off. You're going to have to undo this water pump hose. The first look at the piston, it honestly doesn't look too bad. There's not much movement whatsoever. It doesn't look horrible, but we'll see what the cylinder looks like once I pull the jug off. I got 2 more bolts down here. They look like 10 millimeters, and this jug should slide off. Okay, cylinder's off, and it definitely has some scoring. There's scores all over it. I'm assuming from the air filter not being on and dirt and junk getting down in here. Now, I pulled everything off in the order it came in, so I'm going to next pull the piston off. But there's definitely some scoring. If you run your fingernail along the edge, you can feel a little catches because, like I said, it is scored. So now we're going to get the piston out and move on. When getting your piston out, make sure to stuff some clothes or something, rags down there, so you don't lose those little piston clips that hold the piston on the crank there. Okay, piston is out, and there's no movement on this crank whatsoever. There's a little bit of side to side, but so little that I don't think it's going to matter. It is over here. Doesn't look terrible. There's some scoring down the side of it. Who knows what got in there? Who knows when the oil was last changed? I do have new valve seals, so I will be putting new valve seals on here and checking the valves, making sure they're okay. The valves don't look too bad. I will be cleaning them up after a little bit. I did get new gaskets, but these have these weird nubs on them, and I'm not sure if I need to take these off and put them in the new ones or not. So I will try to figure that out. And I have everything laid out as I pulled it out, but everything should be pretty simple and easy going back in. Now, you've probably been wondering what kit I bought to redo the top end, and I bought this niche kit. It was like $100. It's pretty cheap. I don't have a lot of high hopes for it, so hopefully it's great. Well, you know, who knows? But we're gonna put it in and see how it goes. It comes with everything you should need to replace the top end, everything that I pulled out. So you got your rings, your piston, your little clamps there. There's that. And you do have a new cylinder, which is pretty nice. So here's the new cylinder, which it's all cross-hatched. It looks pretty good. And then you got your gaskets. So we are going to put this piston on. I'll probably put the rings on as well. It looks pretty good. It's not too bad. Obviously in for the intake side, so it'll be kind of sitting like that. And let's put these rings on and move on from there. Okay, piston fits in real nice and tight. What I'm going to do is set this thing how it needs to be on the motor and then put the piston intake side in from the bottom. And then once it's in the bottom, I'm going to try to put the, I can't remember what this is called. Whatever it is, the thing through here, lock one side, push it in, try to get it on the crank, and then obviously clip it in with these little clips. So I'm going to, I put the rings on, so gonna get the rings situated where they need to be, put it on from the bottom, and then like I said, try to slip it on. These gaskets that came with this are pretty low quality, so I'm not real impressed with these things. I've cleaned off the bottom area where the old gasket was, and the head, or the new cylinder, I've cleaned that off. So I'm gonna go ahead and set these on here, this new gasket, and hope that this thing works, because I'd hate to do this again. If I was to do this again, I probably would better gasket kit and not use this one that came with this, just because it seems really cheap. Okay, I got the cylinder, I got the connector here. I'm gonna make sure to put some rags underneath here. Okay, piston is on the crank. Now I'm going to stuff rags in there so I don't lose that little pin and lose it down in the motor, because I'm gonna have to put it on kind of over here without, like that, so we shouldn't lose it anywhere. Okay, I got this clip. I'm going to attempt to put it on. There's not a lot of room down here. Okay, got it in. That was way longer than it should have been. Sliced my hand up a couple times. These cylinders are freaking sharp when they're new. So I did lube up the cylinder with some assembly lube. It's not just going dry. You can pull your rags out now so that you can slide your cylinder on. Make sure there's nothing on your gasket. Start to push down. Make sure everything's lined up. And there we have it. The jug and piston are on. Alright, so unfortunately, I made a mistake and I forgot this freaking dowel pin on the old cylinder. So that means I'm going to have to undo those two bolts, pull the cylinder out, pull the piston clip out, slide it out of the crank, pull the cylinder jug all the way out of there, put this over the head bolt, and then put it in. Put it all back together. Make sure to pay attention to these things. I don't know what, I'm just getting in a rush. That's what's happening. And I'm getting cut up everywhere. I'm getting frustrated. So don't do that. I'm going to have to do all this over again and put this back on. Thankfully, I noticed it now and not later. Got that dowel back in. Now I need to put these valve seals in. I got actual Honda branded valve seals because they're like $9, $8, whatever they are. And they're cheap enough that I don't feel like going aftermarket cheap stuff for these things. So I'm going to pop these valves out. I have a valve compressor. I'll actually link that down below. I've used it quite often. It works pretty good. So I'll pop these valves off and bring you guys back once or pop the springs and the keepers off. And once I come back, once I get that done, I'll bring you guys back. Okay, so unfortunately my valve spring compressor is too small and I almost lost these freaking keepers. I did put the new valve seals on, took the old ones, they just pop on and off after you get your springs off, and I'm going to reseat these things, lap them or whatever it's called. I got some compound for that, so I'm going to do that real fast, get that in, put these springs back on, compress them back in, hopefully don't lose the keepers and get those suckers in there, and then start working on cleaning the top of this up so that, or the bottom I guess here, so the gasket seals on there. I got the valve springs back on. I used a smaller size instead of trying to using the bigger size, so it's set inside this little keeper thing here. Got the keepers on, no problem. Got the valve cover, the head on, lap the valve so they should be seated really well, and got it on the cylinder. Now I'm just going to start tightening these head bolts, and then the valve, there's another bolt down here too, and then the valve cover can go on, and then we can check the valve clearance. So this should be, we're kind of on the tail end of it, I think. As long as I've done everything correctly, we shall see, and as long as these gaskets hold up. I'm going to get these head bolts on, the 4 nuts, and then the 1 bolt that goes in. Tighten those. I'm going to tighten them down in a pattern. I'm going to look up the torque spec for them and go off of that, and I'll let you guys know after I'm done. It is 29 foot-pounds for the cylinder head nuts, and I couldn't find this middle bolt, so I just did it as 29 as well. Those 2 down there are 9 foot-pounds, so I got those all torqued to spec. And moving on now to the valve cover, and I believe all those are 9 foot-pounds as well. So I'm going to put the rods in, put the valve cover on, take those little caps off, and then we're going to adjust the valves. Valve cover is on, all the bolts are torqued. I got the motor mount back on. I just tightened it. I don't know what the torque spec is for that. Those things are on. Everything should be solid now, so we still are at top dead center. And what we're going to do is take off these valve covers. I believe these are like 3/4 inch covers. And pop these little caps off and check for clearance. I don't know the clearance yet. I'm going to look it up right now. Okay, the intake side is 0.006 inches or 0.15 millimeters. This is adjusted and good. Now I'm going to do the exhaust. The exhaust is 0.009 and 0.229 millimeters in inches, 0.009 inches. So that's what we did. It's set, it's good. Now we start putting all this stuff back. Now I'm not gonna bring you guys for all this just because you were with me taking it out. So if I come across any problems or issues, I will bring you guys back then. But other than that, this should be simple putting everything back. You just put it back the way you took it off. So I'm going to start putting everything back, and then I'll bring you back for the first start or if there's any issues. All right, guys, this is the moment of truth. Never mind, I lied. I gotta put the fuel petcock turn thing back on and then actually turn it to on. Stupid me, I literally thought I hit record and I've been talking for like 5 minutes. It started. Here it goes. Starts right up. That was kind of weird how it idled up real high right there. It was smoking a little bit, but that was the coolant burning off of the motor and the exhaust. I've let it run for a little bit. I can't let it run for too long because it doesn't have coolant in it right now. Well, not full of coolant, it has some. It sounds okay, it seems to be running fine. It took about 3 kicks and it did start right up. I can't believe I didn't get that on video, unfortunately. Oh well, it is what it is. The thing runs, it sounds okay, nothing abnormal. There's no loud noises. There's still some steam coming up from the coolant burning off. I don't see anything leaking from any of the gaskets. What I really need to do is let it run for a little bit, and I need to pour some coolant in there. I do have some, and see if there's anything leaking once it gets warmed up and hot. But I feel like I can put everything back on now, all the rest of the plastic, so that's probably what I'm going to do. I just filled her up with coolant, so she should be full now. Hopefully some air bubbles come out. I may actually have to leave this lid off. Let it purge some. I need the actual thing to heat up and kick on, which is obviously not warm enough right now. Starts up, no problem. I didn't see any leaks yet, no leaking. So I may just let it idle here for a little bit and then make sure everything's good and then start putting the plastics back on. But I'm gonna let this idle warm up, let some of this coolant purge, and we'll see. Plastics are all on, but I'm gonna call this complete, good to go. Not all the plastics are on, and obviously the seat's not on, but I will be doing an oil change probably tomorrow or the next day. That's gonna be another video, and I'm gonna show you how to change the oil if you guys didn't know. But the oil is a little bit milky because there's still water in there, and I don't want to let it run for very long with that milky oil in there. No smoke, no leaks so far. Haven't done a very long test. I ran it for about 10 minutes, drove it to my neighbors and back, and showed him what, the progress. But that's probably going to be the end of the video. Hopefully you guys learned something. Hopefully I helped you out. Hopefully you can do this yourself if you need to. Maybe I helped you guys learn something or helped you solve a problem. But anyway, if you guys have any questions, leave them down below in the comment section. If you have any tips or tricks or anything that you think I did wrong, let me know down below. Please like the video, and if you want to see more content like this, please consider subscribing. I'm so close to 1,000 subscribers. As of right now, I'm at like 918 when I'm recording this video. I don't know when this video will come out, maybe a couple weeks from now, because I'm going to have to edit it, and I got a lot of editing to do. So anyway, I'm rambling on. I'll have links for everything down below in the description. I'm not sponsored by any of these people, so this is affiliate links to help me out. It's helped support the channel. Consider becoming a member. Helps support the channel that way too. I'm exhausted. I've been doing this for... It took about 5 solid hours for me to do this, and I'm no professional, and I don't have all the correct tools, so I had to work with what I had. That's it, guys. Thank you for watching. If you made it this far, please hit that like button. That's going to be the end of the video. Have a good day, guys. Bye.